Welcome everyone to QuaranCon Cubed, the incredibly clunky name that I've come up with for our continuing content setup here. And today we have the talented RJ Barker with us, brilliant writer, and I'm very excited because I've actually been reading the Bone Ships the last few days, and my reading time is so limited. I'm only like 30% into the book, but I love it so much.
That's the very careful. I get told off if I say slow. That's the deliberately paced part of the book.
But it's brilliantly paced. Because I'm just enjoying the world building so much. And I love the characters too already. But there are so many things that I want to squee about. because it's just I'll dive right in with a thing. Like a few days ago on Twitter, Esme Weatherax, who, whatever her real name is, of course, she takes on the name of Esme for her online persona. But she posted a poll about like the things that people love in fantasy books, and it was like, do you like, religion and politics, or do you like the culture and all this other stuff? And I wrote in an answer and was like, well, I like the magic systems because so few authors actually do anything interesting with the other bits that you mentioned. But you do a lot of really interesting things with the other bits that were mentioned. And what I'm loving right now about the Bone Ships is that world building, all the very subtle pieces that you've put in of how the society works and how the government works. And
yeah, you're back.
Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I did, but you're back. It might be my Bluetooth headphones. So
okay.
If they go again, I'll get some proper ones.
All right. But at any rate, so just that there's so many beautifully subtle world building pieces, and it's all coming together so vividly, and yet it's just, there are no info dumps or anything. We're just getting it drizzled in by the characters' interactions with each other and the world around them.
I think that's because the fantasy that I really love, probably my favourite fantasy book is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And my favourite non-fantasy book is Patrick O'Brian, who wrote Commander.
I've read all of the Master and Commander series.
They're just superb. And I love books, especially Master and Commander, the way that you start reading those and you have no idea what they're talking about, and you're just left to pick it up, and suddenly you realise, I don't know what that thing is, but it's at the front of the boat. And I wanted that feeling. I wanted to try and do that for the reader. Sort of, you kind of throw it, and you don't really know what's going on at first, and then by the time the book kicks off and we start the sort of, this isn't a spoiler because it says it on the back, they start this chase for this big dragon. Mm-hmm. You understand how everything works, and also it's a book about broken people being fixed, so you need to show them broken to fix them as well. So that's and the world's broken, and everything is broken, so I like that.
Yeah, I'm really digging the ways in which the world is broken too, because for one, I love the way you've taken the patriarchy and tipped it on its head, and we've got a matriarchy instead. But it's not bad because it's a matriarchy. It's bad because it's a broken system, and because it's focusing on all the wrong things, right? This obsession with physical health and strength, and against all else, and just it. And I love the way that comes to light as you go through the story, because you're really just dropped in. Like in the head of a guy who has a wicked hangover, and and you're just like, you're dropped in the middle of this world and left to figure everything out. And it feels like that, like you've been physically just dropped in the world, and it's like, haha, good luck sorting everything out. And which is sort of how Doran is, right? Like he doesn't know half of what's going on, and so he's a good character to follow for that, because he's like, I don't know. I've just had this one little sheltered experience, and now I'm seeing the whole rest of the 100 Isles.
When I finished the book, I finished it, and I'd sent it to my editor, and I was thinking, because it was very different to the Assassin ones that I did before, which were more sort of familiar, I think is the best way. And I was very nervous about it. And then Brit, one of the American Orbit editors, had done a thing about what she didn't want to see in books. And the first thing she said was, never write a book where it's a character waking up and looking around the world. And I just thought, I was just tweeting at but Brit, that's my whole book. She just mercilessly made fun of me. But they're all brilliant as the Orbit lot. And yeah. She did sort of use the point to say, also, never just blindly follow rules. You be you and do what you want right. to do. But
yeah, I mean, there's every rule that anyone says, oh, don't ever do this, is, you know, someone's done it and done it well. And that's very true of this, because while a lot of authors use the blindly, like, oh, here's this person who's never experienced the world bit to do a bunch of info dumps, but that's not what we're getting, because Joran is from the 100 Isles, right? Like, he knows the basics of it because he grew up there, but he just has been put into a part of this world that's completely out of his depth. And so, but it's not like he's getting things explained to him. No one's explaining anything. He's just having to learn it as he goes.
He doesn't know it's awful. I think that's the important thing. He doesn't know it, that this is terrible, because this is just right. life. And that's part of his journey, is to sort of, have you met the Ghalem yet?
Yes.
Yeah. To what they go through is appalling.
Yeah.
But for him, that's just like fair. That's the way things are. So he has to. One reviewer described him as an unpleasant xenophobe, and I think that's quite fair, because is how he starts off. He's blindly in his world. He's not questioned anything.
No, he's absorbed the propaganda that's been thrown at him.
Yeah, and then someone comes along and says that is not the way it has to be. It can be different, and you experience that through him, and that sort of, it's quite a hopeful book in many ways. I'm going to take my jacket off. I'm boiling. I'm not managing.
Totally.
The first actual warm day we've had.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not dressed for a warm day.
Oh, that's very artfully done. Now your jacket is stylishly draped on the chair. That's well played. Yeah, they all. There we go. And if you had some red and blue in your hair, we'd think you were a shipwife.
Yes. Yeah, I liked all that. All the way through editing that book, I could never quite remember what the colours were. In the first version, the colours of rank were different in every time they were mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
And my editor, Jenny, would just be going, is this meant to be is this some sort of thing that I'm missing, Jenny? No, I'm an idiot, Jenny.
To be honest, I was just, red and blue were the first colors that came to mind that I'd seen mentioned somewhat recently. But I honestly, every time it comes up, I'm like, is it the same colors? Does it matter? Do they change? And I don't know. But honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, it's clearly.
it was originally shocking pink and violet.
Ooh, nice.
And Jenny just said it's too goth. You can't have it as a go on, Jenny.
Well, why not? I mean, I feel like you laid that out pretty nicely with the very vibrantly colored plants on the island where Joran starts off, right? It's very clear that there's a bunch of like brightly colored plants that you could obviously make dyes from.
And I like the idea that it's this world that everything grows up very quickly and then just dies, and that's why there's no wood, because it's not strong enough. They don't have trees like we have trees. Now that was sort of the starting point of the book.
Oh, yeah.
How do you do big ships if you didn't have trees? And then bones, because bones are cool. And then big bones, so we need really big dragons.
Yeah.
And I gave it to my agent as Hornblower versus Godzilla. And he said, that's lovely, but it sounds silly, so don't tell anybody. Which is his way of telling me to tell everybody, because he knows I'm contrary. So that was how I sold it, and then Orbit really liked it. So, but they're done now. I've written them all, so I'm not.
Wow, yeah, you're done with book 3.
Yeah, it's with my editor. I'll get the final edits back and have to hope I've not messed it up. But
that's exciting. Yeah, I'm trying to restrain myself because I want to just talk about the book because I'm reading it right now and I'm loving it. Because of the subtleties, because of the way that things are done. I love that it's just like little things. Like I love that it's women and men everywhere. Throughout the book. And
that teaches you how how hard that is to do. Even though it's a very specific decision that I made.
Yeah.
Because we do put things we either put things alphabetical, men and women works like that, or we put the most important things first, which is why it's women and men in this thing. And a lot of people, and I knew people would have a problem with it, with the fact they call ships he.
I love that too.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do because I love ships, and it's really because I'm so ingrained into me to say she, but they're not he.
Yeah.
And when you read all the reason when we call ships she, it makes perfect sense in this world for it to
Absolutely, it does. And this is the thing, like I saw, just going into the first few pages, and I mean, it helps that I'm a Patrick O'Brian nerd, right? Like I have read the entire Mastering Commander series, and I love that world that he built. That's, you know, I mean, we talk about world building, it's historical fiction, it's still world building though, because you know, his version of the British Navy, you know, during the Napoleonic Wars is not what it actually was, you know, but it kind of is, and but it's
they go on for a lot longer than they really did in real life. You can't tack his timeline onto the actual Napoleonic Wars. So how did he get to be that old? It's not,
right.
You don't care.
It doesn't matter, right? It's fiction. It's its own form of fantasy. There's nothing fantastical about it except that sort of world building and the way that those ships become home to the people that are on them and stuff. And that's a really deep and interesting world building. And I feel that in the Bone Ships very much. But I love the twists on it because because it's so, when you have a world to create from scratch, all possibilities are open to you, and the choices you make are, you know, they can be anything, and they can be purely for entertainment, and they can be a continuation of things that you've seen before, but to twist it into a matriarchy that's problematic, neither completely dystopian nor utopian, somewhat dystopian, but not completely, but a fairly, actually, like, I mean, there are a number of societies that have existed in that stage, right? And then to make, just all those subtle changes. I don't know. I love it. I'm very excited about it. And therefore I'm having a hard time containing my excitement. I usually spend a lot of these interviews not talking about books because I feel like that's the thing we always talk about in all these interviews. And I want to, like, you know, highlight authors as people too. But I'm too excited about the Bone Ship. So
we'll put it aside.
Put it aside.
We're there. I think I've put my hat in the way, haven't I? Can't see it.
Is it? It's behind you.
Yeah, and the other. all have come out so far.
Okay, well then we'll focus on some non-book related questions for a bit, and then come back to books. So you, in your bio, mention, I can't remember where, I looked at your website and of course Twitter, and I normally stalk the people I'm going to interview on Facebook, but I don't even know if you're on Facebook.
I don't use it much. I'm not a big fan.
So I wasn't able to do that. So my go-to of looking through old photographs was taken from me. So I had to dig deeper. So I read through your blog a lot, actually. But and we'll get to those questions in a minute. But first of all, questionable taxidermy. Please tell me more.
Oh, my Bluetooth has just gone off. Hang on.
Oh no.
1 second.
All right. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. That's
okay.
Problematic. I've got a much bigger pair, but they squash my hair. So,
yeah.
Me and my wife have very similar taste. We're quite eccentric people. When we first got together, everyone went, "Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense." Yeah. And we kind of like the things nobody else loves. That's and the taxidermy we got first. Can you see there's a fox head up there?
I don't know if I can make out that it's a fox head. Ah, yeah, now I can. There we go.
It's like a fox, and that side is an otter. And that fox head is mad. When you look at it up close, it's got a stupid moustache in it, and it's ridiculous. And it was in a shop near where my wife's mum and dad lived in Devon, which is a long way for English people, not a long way for Americans. A few hours long drive, 5 hours long drive.
Oh, goodness.
Next door for Americans. But we always saw it in the shop. We couldn't afford it because we had no money. It just made me laugh. And Mindy took a picture of it and she animated it so it did laugh. And I used it as my icon for years. And then when we got married, we decided, right, we're going to buy it. That will be our wedding present to ourselves. And
But it was
saw
still
the
there.
otter. Yeah, it was still there. No, God, no one else would want them. And she saw the otter head, and the man said, he tried to charge us a lot, and we said, no, they've been there for 5 years. We know that.
Yeah, right. Like, we're on to you.
But all our wedding photos had us with these, with the fox and the otter in them, and everyone at our wedding saw it. It is actually 11 years ago today that we had our wedding.
Aw, happy anniversary.
Yeah, it's brilliant. We've had a really lazy day, but because of that, then would talk about it. And if they saw some weird bit of taxidermy, our friends would tell you should go to the shop and see this thing. So we would be like pushed towards these things that no one else would love, and we would buy them because we would love them. And they're all like, I don't know, can you see Ambrose in this corner?
Yeah. Okay. Now.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a creepy baby doll head on top of?
Yeah, he's a lamp, and we just fell in love with him. And we paid the artist in installments to buy him because we love him so much. But it's not so much taxidermy as just
Oddities.
odd things that we love. But there is quite a lot of journeyman taxidermy pieces. And it's all very old. We don't buy new things. We don't want
anything. Right. Yeah.
For us. And you can't quite see the leopard over here that another writer sent us that had just been in his family for ages. And he said, no one else would want this, would you? Like, yes, yeah, we would. And there's also there's now been a wallaby in the next room with wings. But,
a wallaby with wings?
Yeah.
Is that like the jackalope of Australia? Like, what is that?
Yeah, well, we've got a jackalope. He's over there. I'd get him down and show you, but he doesn't come down. It was just not being a wallaby. My wife added the wings because she said that's what he needed. And if you look over in that corner, there's a beaver. Can you see the beaver?
I'm not sure.
He's in that corner. He's got a. Okay. I'll take a picture and put him on Twitter later on. But my wife's made him into a vicar, and he's got a little tea set that he sells.
Okay, then I think I do see the beaver because I was like, well, no, it looks like a person holding a cup or something. So yeah, I guess it's a beaver.
It's a Reverend Bingley, he's called. But yeah, they just kind of, and once you get known for a thing, it kind of starts to gravitate towards you. But we have quite strict rules, like one per species, not more than one of any species.
Okay.
And only very certain things. There has to be something about them that makes other people go, I don't think I'd like that.
Right.
And then we'll be like, yeah, we really like that. But that's it's just they fill us full of joy and we love them. And
that's brilliant.
They were probably going skips otherwise. No one else would.
I mean, that's sort of lovely. It's like you've created a land of misplaced toys, or of misfit toys rather, of your own, except it's the land of misfit taxidermy. But really,
that's the name of our house. When we give it a name, that's what it's going to be.
The land of misfit taxidermy. I like it. That's good. Yeah. People should want to visit, and also I feel like that there's definitely an urban fantasy story in there somewhere of.
My little boy thinks it all talks.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
They probably do. I mean, let's be honest. That's what, if you put enough of those things in a room, and they're gonna start talking. There's no avoiding that, really.
They wouldn't kill us because we look after them. We don't dust them as much as we should. Maybe.
No, you love them and appreciate them where no one else did. They wouldn't kill you, but they might kill anyone else who comes in your house.
Possibly. Dust is also part of our aesthetic, so we tend not to dust.
Ah, yeah.
I like you get those spider webs covered in dust. I love those.
Cobwebs are the best. It's Halloween year round.
Yeah, I always love to take them down. Stay until they fall down.
So your bio labels you as a bit of a goth, but I think really that's a gross understatement. It sounds like lot of a goth, probably.
Plus, I don't have black hair anymore. I would say my wife is more of a goth than I am.
All right.
I like the clothes.
Yeah.
And I like a couple of the goth bands. But I'm more sort of really noisy music or country. My musical taste.
Country?
Yeah, there's a whole genre of country music that's come out of Denver. It's country by way of the Sisters of Mercy, I would say, and it's really really dark
Mm.
and quite terrifying. I'll link you to some.
I
But
would love that. I've not encountered that type of country, but I have a feeling I
no,
would
no,
like
yeah, I think
it.
he told 19-year-old me. I think he said, "Oh, you'll like country music, Les," and I would have been very rude to you. But no, it's quite brilliant. It's quite. I like music that's either angry or angsty or sinister.
Hmm.
Probably because I'm not any of those things. I'd like to imagine myself as a bit. No, I'm not. Um,
But you like to put on the mantle sometimes, just yeah.
and I think what I write is really dark.
Hmm.
There's a kind of weirdness there that if you meet me or see me on a panel, I'm really silly and I'm all smiles and funny, and then you get go read his book and you expect something light-hearted, and you're just like, oh no, it's really grim. Oh my gosh. But always quite hopeful. I think I write things. I'm not into nihilism. How do you say that word?
I say nihilism, but
Nihilism.
that doesn't mean that it's right. I don't know if that's right at all.
It's one of those only seen written down words that I've never been quite sure about. So
Yeah.
I've always said nihilism, even though it's probably wrong.
I honestly, I'm not sure because it's one of those like, yeah, like you said, I mostly read it. I just assume that since annihilate shares the same
Oh,
root, that it's nihilism, but I could be absolutely wrong. Like that's
no,
just
no, no.
conjecture.
I hope there are people on YouTube commenting and saying it, which is right.
I can check.
Yeah,
We've got a few people here, but right now, well, there's a 20-second lag, so we'll see if people comment about
oh,
nihilism versus nihilism as we go.
ennui. The word ennui. I always thought for years it was said NUI, and I
Ah,
prefer my version. So that's the one I
sure.
use. I'm not bowing down to the ennui process.
I refuse your ennui.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
insist that it's ennui. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, honestly, whatever. Language is silly
I
anyway.
tried them, but I can't be bothered. I'm tired.
Can't stop. Busy. Um, far too busy. Okay, I also stumbled across a fact about you that I rather like, that you were once in a band, but you thought it was, or you thought you were actually a rubbish musician, which I find hard to believe. But so I'm curious, what kind of band? How long did the band exist? What genre? I think, wait, I already said what kind. Yeah, like more, please more.
Quite a few bands, and they were
Ah,
all really bad, apart from one. And the last band I was in were actually quite good, and
uh,
was a really, really good friend. And that was when I realised that I was never going to be a professional musician because I just couldn't quite keep up. I could do it um, if I practiced an awful lot,
hmm.
and it always felt like I wasn't quite keeping up. And I kind of realised that I shouldn't be doing it. So I stopped, and I thought, what else can I do that's artistic and will allow me to show off a bit, which are the two things that I love. And I love acting, but I know myself well enough that I couldn't remember a script. It just wouldn't stay in my head. So unless I could ad lib it all, that's not a chance. It's not going to happen.
Well, you could do voice acting, but
You can learn. I'm very
because
character.
you can read the entire thing.
Oh, I'm good at reading. I can do that. I might have a go one day. But
Sorry, anyway, as you were.
always love books. Always love books.
Yeah.
When I was playing in bands, I was the one with the book in the pocket all the time. Um, so I thought, oh, well, I'll give writing a go. And
Yeah.
I didn't quite finish school because I was going to be a rock star. So I had to teach myself to write. And I sort of decided right at the beginning. So when I decided to play music, I decided I was going to be a massive rock star. Um,
Mm.
and I wasn't. And it became clear that I was never even going to scratch that. I was kind of grungy bands. That was the sort of
What
time. And
instrument did you play?
I was a bass player.
Me too.
Well, I thought that sounded the easiest. That was my reasoning. And actually, it's not. It's a lie. No. You've got to be able to keep in rhythm and everything. I was
Yeah.
playing entirely different songs to the whole band, and I never noticed. I didn't know why everyone was so angry.
Could have been the drummer. Blame the drummer. Always blame the drummer.
Yeah, drummers are terrible. But they're awful people. But yeah, so I thought, right, I'm going to write, and I'm going to sign a contract with one of the big publishers. That is what I will do. And I chose that because I'm hugely lazy. I'm the world's laziest person. So I had to give myself an ambition that is unlikely. And I knew it was unlikely. I looked up and thought, right, that's never going to happen, but I'm going to go for it. And somehow I did it. So I have to have a new ambition now that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, how are you going to top that? New York Times bestseller for X number of weeks?
Best writer in the entire world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Then you always have something to strive for, and you can never have to do it. It's an impossible thing to me.
But so how do you measure that metric?
Oh, you can't, you see.
Oh, okay, so that's why it's the...
There's always going to be loads of people telling you that you are definitely not even an average writer at this moment.
And also some number of people telling you that you are already the best writer in the world. So, there's that.
Yeah, it kind of balances out. Some people love what you do and some people really hate what you do. And that's all. And the idea of awards and things like that for art are ridiculous, really, because you can't quantify art. It's populism and what happens to be in, and all these things come together. And quite often they choose the right books, which is quite nice. But also odd things turn up, and I'm not. It's really, I don't really understand it. It makes me very uncomfortable. My first book was up for a lot of awards, and I was really uncomfortable. The whole was like, no, I don't like it. Just makes me. But fortunately, I didn't win any of them, so it all turned out all right. Yeah.
I have not read Age of Assassins, so I have no idea if it was meriting awards or not. But I can only assume that but the Bone Ships is so good. I assume Age of Assassins was also quite good.
It's very different. It's a murder mystery. So all three are murder mysteries, and they're written. The first one is written quite in a quite simplistic way because it's written from the point of view of an emotionally stunted 15-year-old.
Oh, always fun.
And then the second one is more complex, but Girton, the main character, it was called Girton Needs a Slap in my head all the way through because he's just awful. If there's a wrong decision, he's making it. He's just angry, stupid. I'm making it sound like a lot of fun, aren't I?
I mean, hey, there have been a number of books written that way that are excellent. So, or have at least won a lot of awards. So,
it's all about you as a reader looking at them and just thinking, why are you being so stupid? And I know what is wrong with you and what you should do to fix this, and you're not doing it. Right. So that if he does eventually do the right thing,
right? Don't want to spoil it.
Rush from it, which is what. And then the third book, he's much older, and he's it's much more complicated because he understands life and people and his position as a murderer for hire, and that's my favorite. I think I really like that one. It's quite nuanced and it has the end ties everything together. And I know I did it. I know I nailed it with what I wanted. Which I don't know if I've done with the Bone Ships yet. My editor comes back. I might have messed it all up.
The good news is there's still time to fix it if you did.
There is, and she will make me fix it. She's quite rude like that, really.
You have to make this better, RJ.
Yeah.
No. No, I don't. Can't make me.
Editors are terrible because they're usually right.
That's so awful. It's so hard on the ego, Yeah.
The only time I've ever gone against my editor's advice was in the Bone Ships. There's a whole, I think it's 2-3 pages long of how to load one of those big crossbows the ships have.
Oh yeah.
And Jenny said, "Do you not think people will be bored? Can we not just maybe cut this to half a page?" And I was like, "No, Jenny, you can't have a Navy book without a massive, overly involved explanation."
It is an important time-held trope, and it must be done.
Yeah, and even mentioned that, and then I went, but I also use it to time an action sequence later on. So, okay.
That's excellent. I'm sure fellow naval book enthusiasts will all appreciate that scene, and and everybody else will be like, well, this seems a little unnecessary, and the rest of us are like, no, it had to happen. Very important.
Yeah. And even if you think it's necessary, you'll get to the end of the book and think, now I know why you did it. I understand now.
Excellent. Made it integral to the plot.
Yeah.
So going back to Age of Assassins for just a second, in a fairly humorous light, because you in your blog once stated that you could have called or might have called Age of Assassins Mr. Stabby's Exceptionally Stabby Day, and I want to know why that name didn't stick, because that seems like an excellent title.
It's probably actually a bit of hyperbole because it's not actually that stabby. I did a count up, and in all three books, Girton actually performs one assassination. The rest of it's just kind of straight up fights. And the plot of Age of Assassins actually is the fact that he can't stab people when he really wants to.
So if anything, it should be his exceptionally unstabby day.
Yes, yeah. Well, he does eventually get his stabby day, and that day is very, very stabby. But yeah, that's kind of. I tend to have sort of silly working titles. I did for the first two, and then King of Assassins was always called King of Assassins because Orbit had already named it.
Okay.
And the Bone Ships. The Bone Ships was a working title, which I didn't think would stick. And Orbit went, "No, we love this." So, okay then.
It's like, I thought it was a little too obvious because it's ships made of bones, but all right.
No, we like it. It says it doesn't retain it, and that's really cool. Which is good because you don't have. I don't know how many authors have. Well, I know quite a few authors have title hell. That coming up with a book title can be. Age of Assassins had about 100 titles between me signing my contract and then putting out the press release. I've got a page somewhere with 100 different titles on there because it was originally called the Uncrowned Heir.
Yeah.
Not relevant. Yeah. It does sound cool, but the world is split into two types of people. The type that go, well, technically all heirs are uncrowned, RJ. The type of people who go, well, all heirs may be uncrowned, but of course you can have a crown prince. So yeah, so I can have that title if I want, but we didn't go that way because it sounded too historical and too crimey. And then I wanted to call it All Deaths Well Intentioned, which I think
I like that. I saw that in that blog post, and I was like, oh, that's good. It's a little Shakespearean,
Exactly. And then, but Orbit said we'd quite like it to have assassins in the title. And I was, oh, okay. And then you find out these things like we had the big conversation about how a title and a cover for a mass market book like that are actually nothing to do with what you think you've written.
No, that's just marketing tools.
Yeah, entirely to something. It took me a long time to get my head around that.
Yeah.
But by the time they said Age of Assassins, and I was just like, can I tell everybody I've signed a book contract then? And they were like, yes. And they'll call it what you want. And I like it now. I love it. I love everything they did with it.
Yeah, no, they're good. They are good titles. And The Bone Ships is also a good title. I like it. It seems, I mean, it's very straightforward, but it's also, but that's such a cool concept that I get why they were like, oh no, we like that because it's gets right to the point.
I couldn't think of any other title for it. I thought I had a go, but nothing really worked.
Yeah.
So stick with that. And then the second one's called Call of the Bone Ships.
Fair enough.
I don't think we've released the name of the first one, so can't say.
Very well.
I'm very bad at keeping secrets. So that's quite good of me that I managed to do that.
Congratulations. Well done. I applaud your restraint.
I hope Jenny watches this and sends me a present for that. Says, well done. Or more likely, she will send me an email that says, you can't tell people, you've just made that up, that you have to keep it secret. Well, right.
So, well, at some point, one of them was a secret, which, yeah, fair enough. I can't really, I would be bad at those things too, keeping in line. The nice thing about it just being me is that I can tell people titles and release covers whenever I feel like.
Change your books later on, can't you? If you do it's lovely. I love that idea of being able to change things later on. But I don't think I would. I never go back and read them. Once they're out, they're gone, and I don't think about them. I've only read the bits that I read out to people since they came out. Because I know I would just be terribly disappointed in them.
It is hard. I actually don't I made you know how you release a book, even, and like the thing is, I've seen this is trad and indie both, no matter, like, you know, because I have I have an editor, I have proofreaders, I have, you know,
Yeah.
like the whole deal. And but you release a book and there's still going to be 10 typos in it, you know, like that's just how it goes. They go to print with like and if it's less than that, you're like, yes, nailed it, you know. And so the one thing that is like super nice about being indie is that I've gone back and gotten rid of all 10 typos that were in the first release, but I haven't changed anything else. Even though my writing makes me cringe from 5 years ago. But
I can't. It's really weird, and it shouldn't. You're writing your stuff out at the time, and then sort of half an hour later, you know. But when I did the Quote Unquote panel, we were talking, and I was saying that in the burn ships, the ships don't have sails; they have wings.
Yeah.
Their society is very avian, so it makes sense to have wings. And wings catch the wind. It's all the logic's there. So but you can't have sails. You do have sailors.
Right.
So you can't use that word. It's gone. It's taken out.
Yeah.
And I was saying how long it had taken me to get all of that out of the book. Absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I had to do a reading for someone else. First page, I opened the book on sailors.
And there's one reference to the sun also in like the first 20 pages. Instead of Scarlet's Eye. Yeah. But you know what? Nobody, like, we notice and nobody else does, you know, like it's.
Well, the people just told. But I kind of, I don't think it spoils you enjoying the book. It just winds me. Like,
But you know, you went over it so many times, and it's just But that stuff you can't escape it.
I don't think if you can say just read books, because that sounds quite dismissive. But don't say just read books. I don't think if you don't write books, you understand how utterly blind you become to a manuscript after a certain amount of time. It's just gone. You're not seeing when people say you missed out this thing. You're like,
it was in my head.
In my head. When I edited the second Burn Ships book, there was a character that was in 3 places at once because of the way I set up the book, and I didn't pick it up. My editor didn't pick it up. The proofreader, the copy editor didn't pick it up. Just nobody noticed, and it was only sort of my very sort of second to last read through, and I just thought, just frantic rewriting.
Quick. That's lucky you caught it though before it went to print, because that's the kind of stuff where, you know, that actually is jarring as a reader, where you're like, wait a minute. and like that's the thing is, as a reader, as a reader who's not the writer, you notice those things, because you're like, I haven't seen this story before, but this piece does not make sense. This person is now time traveling.
Find things that you don't know are there, which is lovely when people say, "Oh, it's about this." And you go, "Oh, I didn't." Yes.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're referencing this, aren't you? Like, yes, definitely. I'm going to Google that in a minute. Everybody later on. So look clever.
Aren't I brilliant? Yeah. Yeah. Those are always fun moments. I'm going to check back to see if we still got nothing in reference to nihilism or nihilism. Except James Latimer did say both, which might have been in reference to that, but hard to tell. Okay. So, oh man, I want to do more non-writing questions, but I also am enjoying the writing questions. Let's throw in a non-writing question.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about candy on Twitter a few times now, and I feel like we should talk about it more. What are your favorite candies?
At the moment, I don't know if you have Flyers in America. They're like a licorice tube filled with sherbet. Do you call it sherbet? Fizzy like powder?
Fizzy powder, yeah. We call it all different things, but those exist mainly in candy import shops, though. Like that is not a standard candy that you would find kicking around like a gas station.
I'm loving those. And Midget Gems, I don't think you have those in the US. I think they're a very English thing.
What are they?
They're like tiny, very chewy. I'll post you some. Because I owe posting somebody some sweets. Robin Hobb posted me candy corn
Aw.
because I'd never heard of it, and she sent me a load of candy corn so I could try it, and it's deeply unpleasant.
But also strangely delicious if you were ever a child in the United States
Yes.
on Halloween, right? So I have
One of those
this
things.
very complicated relationship with candy corn because I find it utterly disgusting and yet very soothing at the same time.
So many sweets are that. They're something that you ate as a child and you really love. Like there's a thing called they're also called flyers, but they're not the same flyers I was talking about. And they're basically flying saucers, a rice paper flying saucer filled with Chrissy sherbet.
Oh, those I think I've had before.
Yeah, and they're not very nice, but I could eat all of them. I'd be very sick. I would. I was obsessed with them. I'm trying to think what else about foam mushrooms, but I'm very particular, and it's only one particular sort that we have to source from Holland to get them. And licorice.
Regular licorice, like the black licorice with the...
Yeah, Pontefract cakes, which I think are an English thing.
Might be.
Quite sweet licorice. And Zout licorice, which is a slight salted one from Holland.
I've had salted licorice before. It's the only licorice I like because it takes down the anise type flavor, which I can't do that flavor.
There's different levels of salted licorice as well. Because if you get up to the top levels, it's like eating licorice while snorting seawater, and it's quite. I think it's quite an acquired taste. It's not for me. My licorice as well, which is it's quite an adult flavour. He loves licorice, but he doesn't like sweets. Good for me. Right. I got to share. But
my daughter, I think, has a lot of her dad's sweet tooth, and Corey likes. It's funny. Everybody else likes chocolate more than I do. Like I'm not a big chocolate person, and the more cocoa involved, the less I like it. Like I don't particularly like chocolate, but if I am gonna have it, I want it to be creamy and milky and a little bit, like it doesn't have to be super sweet. I do, but I feel like it's a different experience from chocolate. But I do actually like white chocolate sometimes. But it's also too sweet. I actually don't love a ton of sugar in my desserts and stuff. Like I'm very much into. I like lemony, sour anything. Love sour.
I'll send you a licorice flyer and some midget gems in a care package. the sour flyers, I sent some to Jen Williams.
Yeah.
Jen Williams, Comics, and the Jen. My books have gone out my head. I can see the covers. Anyway, the other ones that won the British Fantasy Award, she's brilliant.
Nice.
I sent some sour flyers to her and she cursed me because now she's an addict. Or doesn't buy the box from Amazon. The other way of getting them.
Amazing. No, they sound good. I would love, anything sour I'm into. I also love caramel. Like I love caramel, and salted caramel is
I like
my favorite.
Problem is my wife is always dieting. That's her thing. So she bans anything she likes from the house because I like baking, but I'm not allowed to bake because I'm too good.
The things you make are too delicious and they shall not.
No, actually, her bar is just very low for what she will eat. Well, actually, not delicious, but she's like, oh, it's a biscuit. I love it.
Amazing. There's definitely no ban on sweets in this house, but at the same time, we don't eat a ton of them. My husband's mother, who lives not far away, makes some really delicious desserts and occasionally drops them by, and then I just, I try not to eat all of them and just eat some. Some rather than all. That's my only goal. Some rather than all. I'd say, I'm an everything in moderation type person.
Some is an indeterminate amount.
It's true. It's really, I'm just saying not all.
If you leave one, you've only eaten some of it. That's my plan.
Yeah.
I love it. Nobody else in this house does, so I can get them all and then make myself feel thoroughly ill.
Yeah. That's the part I like to avoid. I like to avoid the ill feeling. And I have a very low tolerance for sugar. Like I can make myself feel ill by just eating an entire candy bar. I have to eat like half and then.
I've worked my tolerance up quite a long way. And I'll take the feeling ill. I'm ridiculous. Yeah, I'm going to feel really. It's like I'm quite poorly, and I have Crohn's disease, and there's like a list of banned foods.
Yeah.
Peanuts is on the banned foods list. It's really
Yeah.
bad. I have the double dose in agony if I eat peanuts. But I like peanuts, and I've discovered it doesn't make any difference between one handful of peanuts and a massive bag of peanuts.
So if you're going in, you're going all in.
So every so often I'm just like, no, I'm doing it. Peanut.
All right. Well, oh, we've lost your mic. We can't hear you. Now we've got static. Static. Just static.
Hang on.
Oh, there. Now you're back.
1 minute.
Okay. Now, that's weird. It muted you. I think.
How to unmute the speaker?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I
just
can.
try something else.
Yeah.
Having technical problems.
I think we're good.
No, it's broken.
No, I think you're good. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I might have to come out and come back in again.
Okay, try it. I will juggle or something. Sorry, everybody, we're having a slight technical issue. I'm just going to try leaving and coming back. Maybe. And I will entertain you in the meantime, somehow. I might actually literally get a set of juggling balls. Yeah, oh yeah, it's tight. Yep. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you want me to? I guess I can kick him out. But I don't want to kick him out. There we go. Sorry, everybody. We're just having a bit of trouble with sound. Yeah, so Art is gone for a second, but he'll be right back. Sorry about that. I am actually grabbing juggling balls. Why? Because I don't know what else to do to entertain you. I don't know any good jokes. I have been teaching my daughter how to tell really basic, not funny jokes, but I can do really basic and not very interesting juggling, except I've got my headphones in, which is going to make it extra complicated. So, yay! Yeah, sorry about that. I seriously don't know what else to do. Oh, hey, we got RJ coming back. Excellent. We can focus on that instead of my terrible juggling skills. Let's see. Wait, did I hit admit? Yeah, okay. There we go. And you're back, maybe. Wait. Audio? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, but I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Weird.
Oh, no. Dang it.
1 minute, hang on.
Well, okay, now's a good time. I'm going to look through what people are saying in the comments. So if you want to throw some questions towards us, now is a great time because I can look through them. I see someone has shouted Winnowing Flame and Copper Cat Trilogy also. I believe those are references to Jennifer, the aforementioned Jennifer of the Sour Flyer addiction. Right. All right, Art is bringing out the big guns. We've got the big headphones. And any luck with those? Oh, now I can't hear you. Do you have a mic on those? Anything at all? I think it might be broken. RJ is typing to me, says, I think it might be broken. well, what to do? Do those it's oh, okay. All right. I'm just turning everything off and back on again. Much to the probable appreciation of everyone who's ever worked in IT. Turn it all off and back on again. And yeah, so I'm just going to talk to you guys for a minute. So I might as well talk about RJ's books while he's not here. I am, as I have mentioned, I think many times now, really enjoying the Bone Ships. I think a large part of that is because I am such a Patrick O'Brian nerd. I do love that. I also loved, for anyone who's read the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik, because that is essentially like Master and Commander with dragons, which is a really fun twist, and has I thought Naomi Novik did a great job with the feel of that British naval Napoleonic Wars, and it is the Napoleonic Wars specifically, and I really love that series, and so the Bone Ships has that kind of feel, but also very different feel. There's a very I don't want to say Viking because it's not that either. There's a wilder, like it just creates its own culture, and it's very clearly it does not read as the sort of British naval experience in many ways. The culture varies, has many other twists and turns that are not what the British Navy would have been. Oh wait, do we have RJ back? Yes, admit. That aren't what, standard. All right. Is it working? Gallery, what? Okay.
Aha, I can hear you.
Yay, I can hear you.
Yeah. Who knows what happened there? I've changed to different headphones. There we go.
And now everything's fine. Excellent.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Everything's fine.
I don't think anyone noticed.
No, I'm sure they didn't. I just started waxing on about how much I was enjoying the Bone Ships while you were gone. It's like, well, RJ's not here. I'm just gonna talk about all the things I'm loving about the books. So you missed that, but you can go back and watch it later if you feel like it. But in the meantime, James Latimer did contribute that Jen Williams's books are The Winnowing Flame and the Copper Cat trilogy.
That's it.
So
yes, I didn't forget Jen. Actually, she wouldn't be surprised because I can't remember people's names. So she knows that. She'd be sitting laughing at me.
I'm lucky I remember my own name most days, so I feel for you there. That's not.
It's quite hard.
You'll get no judgment from me.
Yeah.
And having a brain full of imaginary characters doesn't make it any easier either.
No, my brain has room for 3 books.
Right.
But nothing else at all. I can't be trusted to remember things. I get lists. If because it's not going to work at the moment because of the whole thing. But she would go to work and leave me a list of the things I was meant to be doing that day, and I would probably do some of them. But I might not. I might forget. But I have kind of a limited amount of energy anyway.
Yeah.
So, because of the peanut thing, but yeah, the peanut.
Related to the peanut.
But I'd get a reasonable amount done because I do most of the homeschooling for our boy and all that.
Yeah,
looking
that's
after the house stuff because I'm at home all the time, and she is at home all the time, but she has important work for the stuff. I don't understand
for the other bills. I mean, I assume you've got multiple contracts with Orbit, so you're probably bringing in a fair bit as well. But yeah, that but you're working.
She does. I think what she does is probably more important because she does she's a designer and she's done all the most of the COVID stuff for our area is all her design and stuff. So getting the message across. So I don't mind doing stuff. And she likes going to work. It's really weird. I don't get that. I was just like, no, you can just stay at home all day. And she said, no, but I don't see anybody, and I don't get to go and sit in a cafe and have my dinner. And I was like, I know, it's brilliant, isn't it? We're at home all day. We can do what we want. She's very conscientious.
It's funny because my husband's similar. He's an actual extrovert. Like I'm an extroverted introvert. I get my energy from sitting home with a book and reading and not talking to anyone for days. That's how I recharge. But my husband's like an extroverted extrovert, and he needs other people to feel like a human. And so it's been really like the lockdown's been really hard on him because he's been
needs to run around.
Yeah, he needs to run around and talk to people, and he's just not doing that, and it's not helpful for him.
See, I love people, but I really like being by myself. That's just, and there's been I've not been by myself at all. It's been really bizarre. Everyone says, is lockdown hard on you? I said, well, my life hasn't actually changed really for me because I'm still at home all day, but I do have to put up with my family now.
Yeah, that's actually
it's a good reason I like them though. I like them, so it's okay.
But having people in your space all day when you're not used to it is it's not as simple as everyone.
And it's much harder to write a book with a 10-year-old around. Oh
my gosh, yeah, or a 3.5-year-old.
Oh, that's even harder. they have so much they need to know and do, and commentaries they need to give all the time to you about what's going on.
The constant running narrative about what's happening. Which is
brilliant, and I love it.
It's very fun, but it's also very distracting. And so it's when you feel like you've got a book to write, it can seem like a conflict.
Thank God for YouTube, because you can just watch YouTube for a bit. Is that okay? Gone.
Yeah, exactly. Here's please learn about polar bears for a while. Okay. I love that she likes nature documentaries, because I do let her watch shows sometimes, like Paw Patrol and things, but but I try to limit that. But there are days when it's like, I'm not going to get anything done if you're not distracted. Because
do you have Octonauts? Do you have Octonauts?
Well, she has seen Octonauts because we've seen it while visiting my family in the States. I live in Canada right now, and and I don't know if it's licensed for, because I remember looking it up after we got back, and it was not on Canadian Netflix, but it was on US Netflix.
Because it's superb. It's just
good.
Yeah, it's just everything. It's all facts.
Yeah,
with weird little animal adventures. And then if you can get the original Octonaut books, not the ones from the series, they're magical. They're just beautifully drawn, and they have these sort of slightly. The series is quite. This is a sea creature, and we're going to do saving the sea creature things. But the books are weirder and lovely. I get the Octonaut books; they're amazing.
All right, excellent.
I'll dig out the names of the actual author rather than the TV version. So make sure you find the right ones.
Cool. I will take that suggestion. Cedar loves books, perhaps not surprising, but she will absolutely. She can't, read to herself yet. She can read letters, but she can't put words together. So she's, but she'll just stare at the picture. She'll even just sit down or tell herself the story, and love it. But when she's not doing stuff like that, sometimes she just really, really, really wants me to play with her. And I often do. I spend a lot of my time playing with her. But there are times when I'm like, okay, I can't play anymore, and I now need to do these things. And yes, here is a documentary about polar bears.
Polar bears are cool.
Yeah, polar bears are very cool.
me and Boy have watched we've watched all the Blue Planet documentaries.
Yeah.
Which are brilliant.
Those are.
And watched all those. He loves those. But we can also play video games, which is quite good. He's of an age now. It's quite annoying because he's of an age where his reactions are speeding up, and I'm of an age where my reactions are slowing down. He can beat me, and I don't like it. It's not right.
It is, though. It is.
I suppose it is.
It is the way of the world. Our children are supposed to be better at video games than us.
And he's learning guitar as well, which is quite fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We just picked up an acoustic, and he started teaching himself.
Nice.
So I said, if you keep at that, I'll buy you an electric. And I didn't think he would, because he gets bored really quickly, but he did. And then he called me on it. Said, "You said if I kept doing this, I would get an electric guitar." So we got him an electric guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's
And an amp,
really
or just a
amazing.
silent electric?
Yeah, and an amp. I'm not cruel. Yeah. This is not as good as I thought.
You can always just get him one of the little ones that plug in and
Yeah.
go to the headphones. And
He's got one of those. So
Those
he
are
can,
great.
yeah, but he's got a Marshall stack
Okay.
as well. That's a
Ah,
little
yeah.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it makes a lot of noise. So,
Marshall, yeah, you don't
yeah.
have to do much to get a lot of noise.
No.
Especially the newer ones.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, that stuff is great, right? Like playing music because you like it and it's fun, and not because your parents told you had to do it. That's always fun.
No. And I think it teaches you a lot about maths. It's a really weird relationship between music and he likes maths, so hopefully that'll marry up with him at some point, or he might give up and just play computer games like I want to do.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah. Corey doesn't like Corey's. So my husband's a professional musician. He got his bachelor's degree.
Oh, wow.
In music. But he actually hates math, which I've always found really interesting. He's very good at the mathematical part of music. Like it's not just like he's also very good with his ear, but he also understands the relationship between notes and chords and all of that stuff way better than I do. And he explains music theory to me sometimes, and I'm like, oh, cool. But I don't actually,
it doesn't work on me. I've got a friend who's a proper mathematician, and he will explain really difficult mathematical concepts to me, and I understand them for about 3 minutes after he stopped, and then I'm just like,
and then it's gone. Yeah.
No, go away with your imaginary numbers. I don't want it makes my head hurt. Stop it.
I actually really like it. My brother has a PhD in physics and a very much on the numbers side of physics. And he will explain stuff, and it's the exact same thing for me. I will absolutely understand it while he's explaining it, and for about 5 minutes after, and after that, I could not explain it to anyone else for the life of me. But if you ask me,
have they done the thing where they break numbers for you? Because one of them explained to me why 1 + 2 doesn't equal 3.
Oh dear.
And I couldn't cope. I had to forget it. I just said, no, he's not allowed to talk about that ever again. It's not what I need in life. It's too complicated. I'll stick with things how they are for now. Thank you very much. I have enough problems with normal numbers.
No, he talks about breaking the universe a lot, because one of the things that he's working on is disproving string theory and also and the various and also or even trying to make particle physics and day-to-day physics work together to try to bridge that gap, because no one's done that yet. But yeah, so we talk about that a lot, but not as much about the numbers not working. I'm sure he knows all about it, but I have not. I have not stepped there.
Let the science fiction writers have that. That's my opinion of it. They can keep all that complex stuff.
I mean, I do like that stuff, and I want to play with it more and do some sci-fi stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that it's not a requirement of fantasy that I understand it. But I tried to use some of it for urban fantasy because it's fun.
Yeah. It's people say, so how much research do you do? Joe, I don't do any research. I just make things up. That is literally my job, just making things up. I'm not. If I wanted to do research, I'd write history because I love history, but I can't write it. It's too interesting, and I would just read history books. That would be it. I would never write anything. I'd just read history books.
Yeah,
and I like to. I do research if I'm writing stuff that's in our world. Because I really like crime and my hobby books. When I'm not writing the books I'm paid for, I write crime.
Nice.
I love doing that too. One day, then they'll one maybe. But
although it's fun. I mean, I really enjoy crime novels in a fantasy setting. Love it. Like it's and it's an underexplored genre, I feel. I mean, not that they don't exist, they do, but there aren't as many. of those books, I feel, as there could be, and I would
No,
love to see.
no.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to. I'm not, because I think I know what I'm probably doing next, which is kind of Robin Hood-ish. I say Robin Hood-ish because I don't want people to expect Robin Hood in the same way that nobody seems to pick up on the fact that the Wounded Kingdom books are based on the King Arthur myth almost entirely. That's what they were written around.
Okay.
And when you know that, you can find the bit. You say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And I'm going to do that with Robin Hood next. I think in write something that has that framework of it to start off with. And then I've done ships, Robin Hood and King Arthur. I have no idea what I'll do next after that. I'm like, oh, well, that's my 3 obsessions.
Well, there you go. Something will come to you, I'm sure.
I'll probably write buddy. Don't want to do buddy cop.
Yeah,
but tell that all the cops are horrid.
Buddy,
So,
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Buddy not cops.
Buddy not cops. Buddy detectives. Buddy.
Yeah,
buddy.
I like detectives.
Yeah.
I do like a detective, but Girton's kind of a detective. They are detectives. They're like the Age of Assassins is a proper Agatha Christie style, and this is how it was done thing where they gather everybody together in a room to explain who did it.
I love it.
It's funny when you just because I love sort of classic crime like Agatha Christie and stuff.
I do like
and every so often someone will put a review of Age of Assassins saying, "Oh, I knew who did it from very early on," and I every single time I read those and think, "No, you didn't. You might have guessed it, but you didn't know."
Yeah.
No, because I know the mechanics of it, and I know that I cheated. Because Agatha Christie does it all the time, and I love it. And Conan Doyle does it too.
Yeah.
You can't physically work out the puzzle,
right?
Except in hindsight.
Right.
Once you know, you can see all the clues.
Right.
But if you read it blind, there aren't enough clues to make it definitely one person, which I love that sort of thing. And that's what I did in the Age of Assassins book. So when people say, "Oh, I knew," I say, no, you didn't.
You guessed. Yeah.
Yeah, you guessed.
Yeah.
And it's not because you're not very clever. It's because I'm a massive cheat. That's why.
Because I made it so you couldn't actually know. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny when you read reviews and you learn what people want. Because I kind of wrote the Assassin books with the thinking that you should always be slightly ahead of Girton. You should be working things out first.
Mm-hmm.
And some people that really annoys. Yeah, and it just never occurred to me that would, because I kind of think a lot of sort of crime novels are written that way, where you always think, "Oh, him, talk to that person next," even though it might not be them. You have that little bit of forevision, and I love that.
Yeah.
But I think that's crime novel language put into a fantasy book, and I think a fantasy reader in some way wants a different thing.
Right.
Well, not all of them, obviously,
but
yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah, there's a series that I love now that's by Shannon Maguire, her October Day series. I don't know if you've read them.
I'm aware of them.
You're aware of them, yeah.
I've not read them.
And October Day, the titular character, is she's supposed to be a sort of private eye, and she's terrible. Like, she's a terrible private eye. Like, you would never for a human mystery, you would never want her to be solving your problems, like, because she's not particularly good at it. However, she solves crimes in Fairy, where there's absolutely no justice system of any kind outside of, like, I am the reigning monarch and I say you're guilty, and so bye-bye. And so for them, she's part human, part fae, and she's got just enough of, like, human criminal procedure that she's very, very useful in solving crimes in Fairy, because no criminals in Fairy expect that or look for it. And so, so she has, like, this much, criminal process and like, an investigative process, and she's collection of evidence, etc. And it's, like, really like groundbreakingly helpful to Fairy. And Fairy would never ever trust a human to do it. They already are disgusted with her because she's part human. And so, like, it's it's funny, but I was very, very frustrated with her for the first two books because I was like, you're supposed to be a private eye and you're so bad at this. And I already loved one of Seanan McGuire's other series. And therefore, I continued reading, even though I was actually not enjoying the first two books, only because I had faith. I was like, there's this other series that I adore. This has to turn good. So many people love this series. And sure enough, in the third book, it gets much better for a variety of reasons. Not because she becomes a magically better investigator, but because it becomes readily apparent why she's a bad investigator and why it doesn't matter and why it's more important that these other things are going on. Anyway, but so I get where people are coming from in that I was extremely frustrated with that character for not figuring stuff out. Like, it could not be any more obvious that it is this person. Like, why have you not figured this out? And why have you walked into this trap?
I think that's quite a good way of setting up, because Girton in the Assassin books, he's a terrible detective and a terrible assassin. You kind of want this icy cold character who doesn't care about people as an assassin, and he just can't do that. He really cares about people, and he desperately wants to do the right thing, and that he's in the wrong job. And I think that if you put somebody in the wrong place, that's a really good way of starting a book. And he is somebody like Joron is in the wrong place. Right. He shouldn't be there. And I think that's fundamentally interesting in writing of a way of starting thing, a person who's lying to themselves, basically. And then they have to find out what it is they really want, as opposed to what they think they want. Like Joron thinks he wants to be the captain of a ship, when actually that's a lie. He doesn't. He's after completely different things. He just doesn't know it. Yeah. And Girton's the same. Girton thinks he wants to be a brilliant assassin, when actually he wants a friend. Right. And that's all those books are about. They're just about that and his relationship with his mother, Master. It's very complicated, twisty. But anyway, yes.
But that's cool. And that is ultimately, when I stepped back to think about it afterwards, it was like that was a lot of what was going on with October Daye. She cared a lot about people. She wanted to believe that people weren't bad. And so part of what made her such a terrible private investigator at the start of this thing is that she's, despite being old enough to know better in a lot of ways, she's still very naive about a few things, but it's because she's really just trying hard to believe that these people aren't doing something horrible. And that's how she winds up in these terrible situations. And I am way more cynical than that. And I'm like, no, you're just setting yourself up for disaster. Anyway. But yeah, I feel like it's a good plot device when it works. But there are some people who will always be like, no, I can't, I don't like that character because they don't know what's going on.
I've got a real soft spot for detectives who aren't particularly good at what they do, but just blunder forward, causing havoc until they just cause enough trouble.
Right.
The case has to solve itself because they just want him to stop. So eventually the bad people come after the detective. And then it's like, we've had enough of you now. You're not getting near us, but you are causing a lot of hassle.
You've created so many problems. We now feel the need to kill you. And if you can get yourself out of this situation, you will have solved the crime because we've now come forward and said that we're the bad guy.
It's perfect. It kind of writes itself as well, which I'm a big fan of. I'm not into planning stuff out. I just want things to work out.
Yeah.
Just write a book.
Yeah, that's good. Why not? I'm a pantser myself. All right. So let's see. I have more questions. I have some more non-writing questions and some more writing questions. Which way do you want to
go? Let's go for the writing questions.
Okay. So you wrote a blog post in which you talked about you're talking about realism versus shorthand for certain things, basically. I mean, it was essentially, the question was like, is realism necessary? And the answer essentially came down to realism's great in certain scenarios, but shorthand sometimes is the best way to avoid like a giant expositionary paragraph about why this, why this thing is the way it is. So the quote that I stole from there is, who is the bad guy in this scene? Oh, it's probably the guy using a human skull as a helmet. which I then thought was really interesting. And I know that this quote is from before the Bone Ships was published, certainly, but it's like, but then you actually have an entire fleet of people riding around the high seas on skeletons, dressed in very flamboyant outfits. And they're
I don't even remember writing that blog post.
No, that which is fair. It was, it was from like 2018. So I don't know why you remember. But I thought it was just really, it was a funny thing to see, because then you've got people riding around on ships made of bone, and like, but they're not. That's not actually shorthand for evil in this case. It's a part of a society that's more complex than that, which I've already mentioned is one of the things I love about everything that's going on there. But it is kind of funny, because it is like they basically are like the if you saw them from outside.
You wouldn't want anything to do with them. They're
right,
not nice.
Just look at them.
They're
like,
not nice.
People are all evil. They're all evil.
It's a very, very. I don't write bad guys as such. There is a bad guy in Age of Assassins, but that's because you see Age of Assassins written in first person. You see it through Gerton's eyes, and his worldview is very simplistic, and it's also very coloured. So you get his version of what people are. But generally, the bad guy in my books is society. It's not a person. There's no Dark Lord that needs to be overcome. There's none of that. It's the people that you're fighting are yourself, and that's what they're fighting. I'm very careful about what I say, because there's 2 more books to come, and I finished them. So
right, so you're done.
Because this is going to happen at the end, and you see, and then and almost don't do that. But even in the Age of Assassin books, that their society is terrible and broken, and it's about somebody, not Girton. It's someone else who wants to put it right, and he's trying to help them. And the way that causes trouble. And I had great fun writing those, because there's 3 years in time between the 5 years between the first and second book. So you cause an event, come back and see the ripples of it and what it has caused, which was so much fun to do. I love doing that. And then there's 15 years between the second and third book. So you get this big jump. So you see this world changing. Part of that is because I get bored really quickly, and I want to do a new thing. But that was because I'm more interested in what the actions of people trying to do the right thing have on the society than I am on kind of tracking down and killing some bloke. Because it's not a snake, it's a hydra. You cut off the head, the next person below jumps in and takes over. So but that reality. This castles are a really good one for this. If you have a castle, 99% of the people that read a book will just take for granted that there are fields to feed it, and there's stone quarry for it, and all those things existing. You never have to mention them. But there is a 1% of people who will go, well, where is the supply chain for this castle? How can this castle exist? And I think it's very easy to get hung up on that, on making something real, when you don't really need to make. So I in the first version of Bone Ships, I had rope works and provisioning and all these things. And I thought, God, nobody cares. Who really wants to know how they make rope in this way? It doesn't matter. It's not important. So I kind of think that's my attitude to it. To reality and to research. It's nice to know how a thing is done, but you actually don't need to tell people. Because most people won't care. It's like, if you do research, no one should be using swords in fantasy. That's the bit where it breaks out. You said, well, they should all have warhammers if they're wearing armor. Right. And everyone goes, well, but swords are cool. Swords are cool.
Yeah. So you either come up with a good reason for people not to wear armor, or you just say whatever. Just make it those the little swords that poke through, or
in the eye. Through the visor, in the armpit. Big heavy swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
big sort of long drawn out sword fights of people in armor. That's not really a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to write it. I don't care. It's so much fun. I'm going to do it. I love history. I love it, and I can have a rough working knowledge of how things should be done.
Yeah.
But cool wins every time.
It's fun. It's more, sometimes it's more fun to write, and it's also, there is every kind of reader out there, and so you write the book that is fun for you to write, that is fun for you to read if you were the one reading it, and you hope that there are enough readers that also like that it's a good match, right? Because you can't, some people really do want the very highly accurate armor bits. Although I love
that's cool.
Yeah, and that's very cool.
It is cool.
And then, but there are other books that do that, and maybe that's not the thing that your book does, and that's totally great. Like, we need all the books. It's not actually a direct competition, and it's not like only one book can exist to be good.
In the in the very end of Bone Ships, in my
epilogue.
No, not the epilogue.
Oh.
It's got out
acknowledgements.
Acknowledgements. It's quite late for me tonight, and
sorry.
2 nights ago I had no sleep whatsoever.
Oh no! Thank you for staying up for this.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It was. I was going to say it's not really my fault. Kidney stones, which is not fun. But in the acknowledgements of the Bone Ships, one of the first things I say is, if you understand ships and how they work, then I am really sorry. Because sailing ships are very complicated. And I was raised with a little bit of knowledge because my dad's a captain. Yeah, he's not doing it for a long time, but he knows how they all work. Basically, that apology was for him, because I know he said, "None of these, you can't do that." And I said, but you have a deadline as a writer, and you can either learn how ships work or hit your deadline. There's no so I just wanted it to feel like the sea. And if it feels like the sea, that's fine, and you can sell it, and then it's gone. And it does. I think no one's said, "Oh, actually, this doesn't feel like the sea."
No,
that's not. Somebody will now, though, if they watch this. Somebody who doesn't like that book will go, "Wow, I'm going to put that on Goodreads now." Does not feel like the sea. Entire review. So,
and good luck finding that review amongst 1,000 others. Whatever, like.
I never go to Goodreads, so I miss everything there.
That is for the best.
Yeah, I think it's too. I know a lot of authors who check it, but I just think it's a reader place.
It is. It's a reader place.
Yeah.
I am there as a reader because I do like tracking the books that I've read, and I like talking about books with other readers. I didn't always, but lately I try to avoid my actual author page and just go there as a reader. Because I like Goodreads as a way of tracking the books that I've read, and I like, because I forget so fast, and it's really nice actually to have a little app on my phone where I could be like, I wanted to recommend a book to you, and I can't remember, but it's here, this one, and tell that to someone, because my memory is just.
I wish I'd done that, because there are so many crime series where I've read a certain amount of books, but I don't know which ones anymore because I've forgotten. And I'm sure there's one Patrick O'Brian I've not read. I don't know which one it is. So I'm just going to read them all. I don't mind with those. I'm just going to read them all again because I've read most of them twice anyway. So I'm just going to read them all again, and I'll find it this time. And I'm going to collect. I'm not a collector at all. I'm quite. Most people I know seem to collect a thing, and I don't count the taxidermy as a collection because I see it as art, which is I suppose it's an art collection, I suppose. Yeah. But even then, it's probably more my other half who. I love it, but she's the one who'll say, "I found this thing. We have to have it." But I would like all of the Patrick O'Brians in the covers of the artists that I like. Myself in order, and I'll probably track them all down. I was going to a point with that, and I've completely forgot what it was. It's not unusual for me, but anyway, let's pretend I made that point, and it was really good and insightful. Yeah.
Excellent point. Brilliant. What was? Oh gosh, now I can't even remember how we started on that. It was something about getting really specific with history and such. But
don't be specific because somebody will call you on it. And I'm very careful about not being specific because a lot of my friends are professional historians. and that's
Dangerous.
what they
Danger.
do. Yeah. So I don't. But my favorite compliment is there's a battle sequence in Blood of Assassins, and I've got a friend who's a lecturer in medieval history, and she uses it to explain, in her words, how pants-shittingly terrifying a battle would be at that time. And that's like, I've won. I've won at being a writer now. I don't care. And yeah, anyone else can say what they want. It's quite good. The point I was going to say was that I don't read reviews. I read the odd Amazon review. But I think that all reviews are right, whether they hate your book or not. It's the opinion of that person. That's fine. Not everything's going to work for everybody. And you quite quickly develop this very thick skin as an author. Even if you don't think you have it, you will get it. You just suddenly a 1-star
review. Either that or quit.
Yeah. My first ever 1-star review, my agent emailed it to me. I said, congratulations, here it is.
It's because you have made it once you get that 1-star.
So, okay. The only person that's read it that's wrong was an email that was sent to me, and it said, this could have been a good book, but matriarchies are completely unrealistic. And I just wanted to write back with, mate, there's a dragon the size of a city. Come on, what's it going to eat? I mean, even thought this. Come on, this is. If you're going to pick the unrealistic thing, go for the big one. There's the elephant in the room. There, it's like, how ecologically does this creature exist? It can't. It's fantasy. That's the whole point.
It has devoured the entire ocean.
Yeah.
But that's always the thing, though, right? With people who they bring up those whatever detail it is, and you want to just be like, but there's also, like, I'm not the bone chips, but like there's magic. There's a there's a manticore. There's what part of the woman warrior did you find so much less realistic than the person who is half horse and half human? Like,
and it's so weird because these women, historically, the most successful pirate ever was a woman. She was her name was going up ahead. Chinese pirate.
Yeah. I just saw it in it came up on Twitter. Horrors of Yore posted it yesterday.
Yeah.
Or the day before. And
she was amazing. And then we have Mary Read and Anne Bonny. Who, one of the first things I ever got paid for writing was a play about Mary Read and Anne Bonny.
Nice.
They were fantastic. And there's a whole host of, and probably far more than we know about women that went to war dressed as men. During the Napoleonic Wars, and we only know about the ones that got killed, basically, and had to see a doctor. And every time somebody says, "Kind of women fighting," you just think, "No, it's there. It happened. It's societal that we don't allow this." So if you have this matriarchy and you have a society where women are prized for strength, but people will be different, and it works, and it makes sense. And I love the idea in it that the men are peacocks. I love it.
It is like, absolutely one of my favorite things. The kept are just making they're like giving me life right now. It's there's so, like I said, there's so many things about it, and I'm only like 30% in, and I'm just like, I can't wait to finish.
It did have. Sorry.
No, and then I'm going to be riding Orbit to release the other books faster.
November's the next one, and that's. I'll see if I can get the Orbit US to send you a NetGalley version of it.
I would love that.
Yeah, but the Bone Chips had a moment in it I've never had in a book as a writer, rather than because usually you write and it's all, and then when you get to the point of proofs. There's an English writer called Steve Mosby who describes proofs as that point in your life when you realize how shit your book is. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's what he says, and it just makes me laugh every time he says it. And I have that. I just read through the proofs thinking, oh my god, this is coming out and it's got my name on it. But when I read the Bone Ships, I got to this. It's not a spoiler to say there's ship battles in it.
Okay, yeah.
Because obviously that's coming, and there's a ship battle in it.
Yeah.
And I realized when I was doing the proofs that I was holding my breath.
Nice.
I just thought, this is good. This is exactly what I want it to be. And I'm happy with this little bit.
Yeah.
And I would like to read this to people, but I can't because it spoils the entire rest of the book. So I can only ever read it to people who've already read the entire trilogy, which is really sad. But it makes me very happy just knowing it's there. It balances out the fact that the sun and that sailor are in earlier on. We can ignore that now because there's this ship battle.
Yeah. But you know what's nice about those typos is that they are so early on that most readers probably won't even realize that they're mistakes, because it's not until you're like later in the book that you're like, wait a minute, no one ever calls these people sailors, and no one ever talks about the sun. It's always scared side. Actually, but they're early enough
they're
on
not
that
mistakes. They're tests.
That's right.
They're tests. They're tests for the reader to see if you're paying attention. And that's why they're there.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. Yep. No, but that's all. It's all brilliant. I'm glad that you have moments in those books, even at that horrible point when you've read the book so many times that everything seems terrible, and you're just about to release it, and you're like, this is terrible. Everyone's going to hate me, and finally discover that I'm a fraud and can't write. I know that feeling well.
Yeah.
But
and you think after the first book it'll go away, and it just gets worse.
Oh yeah.
Worse and worse. I always said that I'm one of the least stressy, most laid back people. It's something people comment on. It's like, if you're any more laid back, you would just be dead. You'd just be a corpse that we sort of took round with us for the laugh. But the point between a book being finished and it coming out, when you know it goes out, if there is a crack in your skull, it's going to put a key in and start to lever it up, and there's an anxiousness. And I'm so amazingly impressed by writers who suffer from depression or anxiety problems who still do it, because I don't think I could. I don't think I'm that brave. I think I just have a breakdown. I wouldn't go. I think I can only do it because I'm just like, I reach a point of going, that I just suddenly go, actually, I don't care. I don't care. It's all right. I'm gonna play video games and shoot things. And I've got my wife and my little boy, and it's all right, and it don't matter. Yeah. If I was actually, I can't. You're heroes, people doing that. You astound me, and I'm impressed with you amazingly.
I do feel like there's almost and the pandemic has brought this up too. There is sort of, at least with my form of anxiety, and it's not true for everybody, but the anxiety that I've been suffering from, and my depression also, like, there's a cap. there's only so much that my brain can take, and there's just a point where it reaches where it's like, okay, there's literally like it's either shut down or just pretend that none of this is happening. And so my brain will just, there's a certain point where it puts up a defensive wall. Like, nothing is happening. You're fine. Everything's fine.
I've reached cruising height now, and I'm just gone. That's it. Yeah.
Just done. Yeah. And I cannot speak for anyone else's experience with depression and anxiety, but that's been my experience. And then, but weirdly, and with like a book release, it's a stress for me, but it doesn't usually trigger either. Well, that's not true. I was gonna say it doesn't actually trigger my depression and anxiety. That's not true. It does. I just haven't really released a book since. Oh, that's not true. I did release 2 books after I started talking to a counselor about it. So I don't know. Anyway, it's complicated. Apparently I haven't processed it enough to really speak on it. But yeah, it is.
But you will, because it's an ongoing thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're all being made in bits and pieces till we are in a place, and then we do that. I really believe that things happen at the right time for us, not in a kind of woo new agey dream catchery way, in just that things happen when we're ready for them. Like, I think if I'd sold a book to a mass market publisher in my mid-20s, I would have been an awful human being. And it's very good that didn't happen to me, because it would have been because I just wasn't ready for it. Possibly the time it did happen in my life was the exactly right time for me to be ready for it and not make too much of a fool of myself. And I can see how it can go wrong. Or there have been times everyone has down moments in life where it would have just been too stressful to do. And as you go through life, if you're proper human being, you learn, and you move on, and you realize you've made mistakes, and you fix them in yourself as much as you can. And I write, a lot of my books are about people who screw up royally, and fortunately I've not that I know of, unless I've buried some bodies and forgotten about it, which you would, if let's be honest, you just put that out of your mind. But I find the idea of forgiveness and forgiving yourself, and because that's something my wife pointed out about me, is that I don't hold grudges, and I don't look back at all, which I think is kind of a blessing and a curse. But I don't sort of look back and think, oh, I could have done better if I'd done that thing. I just think, oh, fuck it.
Done.
You're done. I can't change it, so I may as well just get on it and make the best of it. But I mean, the Bone Ships it's a metaphor of forgiveness. It's a ship of people who are terrible that is maybe going to go and do something good.
Perhaps, possibly.
Perhaps.
But,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it for you and say they might. They might not. They might do just terrible things and go off, and that might be where we're going with this. Properly grim,
or just all die horribly because they're bad people.
I think that's 35%. 35%. Everyone dies, and we start off with a new set of characters. Who are all kittens.
in a bowl of yarn.
Yeah, a tiny little boat made of yarn, and they go on a journey to the land of flowers, and they meet a big fluffy dragon.
And they frolic.
They frolic.
And they boop their noses against the dragon's nose.
Yeah, they do. and that's how the book ends, with a little boop. And that's the setup for the next one. Where will they frolic next? In Frolic of the Bone Kittens, the second one.
This is a particularly amusing joke because I actually ended my urban fantasy series, my 5-book urban fantasy series, with a kitten booping its nose against one of the main characters' noses. That is the close of series.
That is a perfect end, though. Because talking of kittens, there was he's gone. There was a very angry cat looking at the window, just looking in, going, "Excuse me."
Did you
I
know
would
you
like
have
to be let in.
otter on your walls?
Yeah. This guy, I would like to be let in, please. But he's gone now. He's gone off in a huff. And he sat under a tree over there. There's a tree that's dense enough that it doesn't rain underneath that tree, and he sits there, scowling at the house when he's not been let in. He's an awful cat, but we love him. But he's awful. He bites you all the time.
Oh, I know. I've known those cats.
From a place of love.
Yeah, of course.
Repeatedly.
Love bites. Yeah. That just bleed a lot. Yeah. Love bleeding.
Yeah. Love blood.
Very much. All right. We're going to go back to another frivolous topic. Tips and tricks or favorite brands for eyeliner. For me, someone who does not know anything about good eyeliner.
I don't know about brands.
Okay.
Because all I know is buy the softest eyeliner you possibly can.
Okay.
And then smudge it all over your face. And for the look that I've worn since I was about 19, which I call, yes, I do look like I slept in this, which is what I've favoured my entire life. And it has always worked for me. So I've never sort of gone, and now I kind of have a eccentric maiden aunt look.
Excellent.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to get mistaken for a girl, and now people they're not quite sure. But it's sort of never. It's one of the reasons I'm RJ as well. Because I like the fact it doesn't tell you anything if I'm male or female. I mean, I'm male. I'm not sort of any of the different things that people can be, which are all wonderful. I just always like looking like a girl. Get better clothes, heels. I love heels. I'm actually wearing Cuban heels.
Lovely. Yeah.
And it's quite fortunate because my wife only likes men that look like women. So
worked out perfectly.
Yeah, that's excellent. We don't anymore because I'm old now. When we first met, the amount of times people would think we were sisters. Look, not just because we were together and clearly emotionally attached.
Right. You looked close, and you looked,
Yeah, and they think we were sisters, and then they think, oh, maybe they're lesbians, and they would always miss. And I say no. We went to see I swear this is absolutely true. We went to see a fortune teller.
Yeah.
When we were first going out, to have our palms read. We don't actually believe in anything like that. We just thought it was funny. And she read my wife's palm, and she told her this kind of wishy-washy nonsense. There was clearly something, could have been anybody who said that. And then we swapped over, and my wife was sat there, and I was sat there, and she was reading my palm like this. Told me almost word for word the same stuff. I was looking at me and going, like that. And then she stopped, so she'd been hit by a bullet, and she looked at me and went, "You are the type of lovely young lady who will be going to a wedding soon." And I said, "Lovely young man." And she looked at me as if I was an idiot and went, "Lovely young lady." and I looked at my wife to help, and she was physically on the floor crying with laughter, just curled up in a ball, and she couldn't stop. And we just sort of wandered out of there, and I swear it's the best. It cost us 20 quid. It's the best 20 quid I've ever spent, because the amount of times we've been places and we've told them that story, and they've just said, "You can have a free drink." And all of our friends, every time we pass a palm reader, there's like, "Are you two going in?" And I know.
We'll pass.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious because you find it hilarious. But oh man, people.
But it's kind of a goth thing. So I'm kind of it's
right. It's right in the wheelhouse that you want to be in.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. I mean, I think the whole thing. I have a weird time with gender in our society in general, because it seems like such a strange obsession with trying to make sure you know what someone's genitals are like before you talk to them. Like that's always, not always, but that has in the last 10 years seemed stranger and stranger to me.
It's really, and the whole thing about women's toilets for women, not are there going to be genital police? Because I don't think you can have that. I think that's it just seems like madness. And I'm a very strong believer in you have to let people be who they want to be, or they will be miserable. And no one's hurting anyone. Let people be who they need to be to get on in life. And I will support that. And it makes me quite cross to see. It's not affecting you.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of out of mid-40s, so I've been used to a world where some of the like them and there is really hard for me to do because I'm just not used to it. But I'm trying, and people aren't awful. Like if you screw it up, they don't kill you or shout at you. Then just like,
as long as you're trying,
yeah. And I just think it's wonderful. I think my little boy will grow up into a world where who he can be is unlimited in many ways. And how fantastic is that? That's just brilliant. And some of the things people like, I always looked like a girl since I was very, very young. I was always very feminine and all these hands and stuff. But I never, every time I see somebody say, "Oh, but they're gonna make children think that they're the other sex," I never for a second thought I was anything but male. I just liked makeup. Yeah. Well, actually, I worked out I was more attractive to girls with makeup. So it just all seems to let people be who they need to be, and that is the most important thing we can have in life.
Absolutely.
That was meant to be frivolous, and it went all serious.
I'm sorry, I know. It's hard though, right? Because the thing is, as soon as, and this is the problem, right? Because I was like, specifically, I brought up eyeliner, but one of my big things is that I think like we need to move to a society where anyone who wants to wear makeup, anyone who wants to wear high heels, who wants to wear whatever they want, like that should all just be fine. I don't understand why people get so worked up about it. It's like, why can't people just present however they want to present, and then that's no big deal. What's like the the reality is that people freak out about it because they want to treat people differently based on what their genitals are, and that is the problem. Like that's like.
And if it was the 17th century, if it was the 17th century, and you had to go at me for wearing makeup, I could shoot you.
Yeah.
It was legitimate for me to sort of say, well, let's go and sort this out in a field with a gun, which is barbaric.
Yes.
we watched Hamilton with my little boy, and duel. We had to explain what duels were, and you were just like, why didn't they just say no? You couldn't.
Yeah.
No, you can. You can just say no. I know, because he knows exactly you're allowed to say no to lots of things.
Yeah.
And then, well, society kind of said different at that time, and he was like, well, I'm glad I don't live then. So you're probably right, because everyone smelled horrid as well. So
also true.
Much better to live now. Covered in lice.
Yeah.
Didn't actually have nice hair.
No. Yeah.
I think that's one of the most shocking things I ever found out, when I found out that people in the 17th century, they didn't. They actually shaved their heads and wore wigs. I just said no.
And then heavily perfumed them, and
and they still were full of insects.
Yeah, totally full of insects. Yeah, but what's interesting is that's very much like Europe and the UK, and like if you were in Japan, people were actually quite clean. They bathed constantly at the same time period, and they had all their own hair, or at least didn't wear wigs as part of it.
Just us.
Fashion.
We were animals. But I like that the whole thing in Japan, that older people were so respected that younger men would shave their heads so they look like they were going bald, which was
there you go.
Brilliant. And I don't know if that's the actual reason, and I've read that, or that's the reason I've decided in my head at some point. It's just stuck with me.
I had actually never heard that until you said it, but it sounds good. I like it.
Well, it's in a lot of Kira Kurosawa films. It's a samurai.
Yeah,
I'm probably making this up.
No. The sponsoring thing is actually true. That was a thing that was done, and it was. But I actually have never researched the why of the head shaving and the ponytail at the back.
Oh well, if somebody watching knows, tell me, because I want to know whether that's just me.
Help us out, James or Stephen, or those are the only people who've talked so far. We have more people than that watching, but I don't know.
Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh.
Speak up, say things. Yeah, it is. So I feel bad because I'm keeping you. It's much later where you are. I'm just in the afternoon. So do you want to do, I don't know, just like 2 more questions and be?
I'll probably have to go about 10ish, which is 20 minutes. Okay. 20 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Oh gosh. Okay. We'll do 1 more frivolous question and 1 more book related question. And call it good. So if you could be any fantasy animal companion, what would you be and why?
Now can we stretch what fantasy is a bit?
Sure.
I would say it's fantasy.
Sorry,
is that a tiny person?
There's a tiny person over here.
Yeah, Mummy, stop talking to the man in the other country. I want to watch polar bears. I wouldn't want to be a companion.
Okay, fair.
Because that involves somebody telling me what to do to some degree, and I'm not very good at that. I would probably want to be Hazel from Watership Down.
Wait, which from Watership Down?
Hazel from Watership Down. Although, kind of, when you read it in hindsight now, he is tremendously middle-class English. But it's just because I've loved that book since I was about 12.
Yeah.
And when you're an odd kid, which I always was.
You want to be the precious bunny.
Yeah, well, Fiver was who I wanted to be. He's the one that sort of has visions and is very strange.
He's the prescient one. Sorry, I haven't read it since I was 12. So
and Hazel's the slightly more sensible one. And I'd quite like to be sensible. It'd be lovely to be the sensible one. It'd be quite nice. But yeah, and it's really weird because but I can't. My mum basically said to my mum, "Did you ever think your son would grow up to be a little bit eccentric?" And she just went, "You were never anything else." And I was like, okay. Do you remember trying to arrange an evil league at your primary school? No, but apparently I did.
That is very on brand, I think.
Yeah. Apparently we had special hats.
Nice.
That was what made us. Yeah. So there we go.
That's to me. That sounds like that was the real reason for the evil league.
Yeah,
honestly.
it is.
You
And
wanted that special hats.
yeah, one of the special hats. Because I do love a hat. There's quite a few
Right.
hats around. There's a bowler over there. There's
Ooh.
my tricorn is on the floor.
Oh no.
Have I worn it?
I don't
It's
know.
not.
Did
Oh,
you
it won't
say?
fit. It won't fit on over these
That makes
headphones.
sense. Well,
It's
flip-
actually slightly too small for me, I think. It's probably-
there you go. Well, now excellent.
yeah.
It looks good. A
Yeah.
tricorn. I think a tricorn hat looks good on just
Yeah.
about anybody. It is a very good look, but it especially
is-
looks good with the flowing. One.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I do feel when I'm wearing like I should be out robbing stagecoaches. It's yeah.
Corn times. Take up a new hobby.
Yeah, we do. We actually live in an old coach house, which is quite nice. It's I don't know if you've heard of Captain Oates from Scott of the Antarctic. He's quite a famous historic figure. He's a huge failure. And Scott of the Antarctic was a failure, but Captain Oates walked out into an ice storm to die in the hope that the other people in his expedition would have enough food to make it back. They didn't. Everybody died. It was an absolute waste of time. But we live in the Oates family coach house. It's our little claim to fame.
All right, very nice. Slightly macabre. He doesn't ever come back, does he?
No, but there are loads of monuments to him around here.
Oh.
You could just sort of wander about looking at them.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right, and now the final question, because we do only have a
Okay.
couple minutes, and I will let you go to bed, or do whatever you do with your evening. But what's next after Bone Ships? We kind of touched on this a little bit, but you've written all 3 Bone Ships stories.
Written all 3 Bone Ships.
Tide Child stories. What's next?
Editing the last one needs done. You never really know how touch wood. I'm not a particularly fast writer, but I'm quite an accurate writer in that what you read as a reader is generally quite close to what I tend into my editor. So hopefully it won't be a massive edit or I'll be rewriting the entire book or anything, because I'd be very upset if I have to. It was a hard book to write, was the last Bone Ships one. Probably the hardest one I've done so far, which is not how you think it should work. It should get easier.
It means you're getting better, though. That's because you're challenging yourself more, and each book is better than the last.
I don't want to get better. I want it to be easy. I take shoddy and easy over hard work and better every day. And then we've got maybe the kind of Robin Hood thing, if I can sell Orbit on it. And I've written 2 crime novels, one set in the UK and one set in the US. Maybe they will come out as I don't know. But I imagine they will not come out as me. They will come out as someone like me, someone who looks awfully like me.
R.B. Parker.
Yes. yeah. That's probably all my writing there. But yeah, they're sort of love. And I wrote a science fiction novel before I got signed to Orbit that nearly sold. And I love the bones of that story, but I went back to read, and I always thought what I'd do once I finished the Bone Ships was I'd just zhuzh it up a bit and release that. And I went back and I read it, and I was gutted because I didn't like it. And so, and I don't know. I think the story's really good. I think there are really good bits in it, and I couldn't work out what I thought was wrong with it. But there was definitely something wrong with it, and I can't. So I'd quite like to work out what that is and put it right, just so I can. Or maybe I'll just harvest the good bits and do something else with it. I'm not sure, but that's what more books. I love to write. I'm not particularly focused on any genre. It's not. I'm not fussed what I'm writing. I mean, I'm not going to write romance because I don't have a background of reading it, so I'd be lost, and I would be forced to write something very like Georgette Heyer, because if I go into romance land, my wife would be saying, you better write something like Georgette Heyer, because that's what she wants to read. So, so I would have to do that. And I just don't think I have the knowledge to do it. But anything else, I'll kind of, I'd do that, I'd have a go. I just like writing stuff. Anything. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Anything. Give me words, give me an excuse to write. It's like I've not really written. My agent said I had to take a week off. And I find it really hard. I want to write something. So I've been collating bits of manuscripts. That's not actually technically writing. Yeah. I'm just editing them a bit and making them a bit nicer.
Nice.
And I've written a précis and 3 chapters of what I'd like to do next. That's not technically writing, because it's not under contract, so it's not actual work. Yeah, it's just but it's such a weird thing being a writer, because it's not
because it's all
I know yeah, well, I know there are some people that do it as a job, as a kind of, they look at it in a really job way, and which I really don't. I look at it as my sense of joy, and that is why I do it, because it makes me really happy to do it. And if it didn't, I would stop, because there's no point. I'd go and try and do something else. I'd go and do the acting. But I can't, because if I talk for too long, I lose my voice.
Oh, all right.
Mime.
We've got it. You've got your retirement plan. It's all. Oh, that's quite good. Yeah, you're definitely.
Yeah. I can't believe it's mimed. It's mimed on the television. Yeah, I'll be writing something. I don't know what. Hopefully, maybe not Robin Hood. I've got whole ideas are easy for me.
Robin things. Yeah, I hope the Robin Hood thing because that would be fun.
Yeah, it's properly loopy. It's really strange. The world, because it's Robin Hood, but there's squid as well are heavily involved in it.
Yes. So, I was hoping there would be something like that, because I was like, if Bone Ships was supposed to be Patrick O'Brien and Godzilla, then please tell me that the Robin Hood is Robin Hood and some other mythical beast. Because is it Kraken or is it squid?
No, it's like squid, but land squid.
Land squid.
Yeah, it's
exciting.
That's only part of it. I can't. I'm not allowed to talk about the actual premise. But it's got I think it's got legs. I don't know. You never know. You never know until you, because it's not written.
It's got tentacles. It's got tentacles.
It's got tentacles. Yeah. Because you have to write like a synopsis and then 3. I didn't actually write 3 chapters of the Bone Ships, so I published for one bit. I sent them a synopsis. Or I sent them a long form poem. So the Bone Ships, some 5-page prose poem that I sold it to my editor on. She's an angel, really, putting up with me. So I've done it more traditionally with this, and I've written a synopsis of what I think the story will be, but it will probably not be that, because that's not how I write.
Right.
And I sit and write a book and see what happens. I know the end, and that's it. And it's like
lucky if you know the ending. I mean, sometimes I start with nothing. Except
I don't think I couldn't do that. I don't think. I think I need to know, like the last Bone Ships book. I knew the ending of the entire trilogy when I started it.
Yeah.
That really weird thing where I was just making it up as I went along, and I suddenly realized that was 140,000 words, and thought,
still making it up.
Yeah, this isn't anywhere near where it needs to be. This is going to end up a 250,000 word book, and I am not. That is not me. I'm not that writer. I have no interest in doing that. It's meant too much. And then suddenly I just wrote a sentence, and I realized actually I'd set everything up. And
for that
to this point, and I just misunderstood what I was doing, and it all clicked. And I was like, oh yeah, I am 10,000 words off the end. It's okay. It's really weird how you can measure that in your head and think, oh yeah, I know that's 10,000 words, and I know I'll finish it.
Yeah.
I can get it if my editor comes back and says, we've got a whole end wrong. And I'll be like, you mean the one I told them in an interview I got right? That one. No.
The one I spoiled in that interview.
Yeah. I think it's I have people that read it, and one of them's already come back and that my beta readers are quite cruel people, deliberately. Yeah, they're people I like a lot and respect a lot, and I trust their opinions. I have 3, and I work on if 2 of them say something is a problem, then it is, because they all find some problem.
Right.
So it's difficult if they watch this. You know you are. But the first one's come back and said, no, this is the best of them, which is what you want to hear, really. So
yeah. Right.
Fingers crossed that he wasn't just having a moment. And I couldn't be bothered reading it. I'll just tell him it's good. Yeah, it was. I loved the bit with the ships. Yeah, the bit with the ships was fantastic.
It's so
and the dragons.
So
yeah,
the fighting.
I loved it.
All the fighting. Love this.
Yeah. And the talking. Oh,
okay.
I love it when they talk. Yeah. I was like,
you could just spend the whole book watching them talk.
Yeah, you see what I'm doing. Well done. I love that sort of praise. So yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's good. But that's not why you pick those people. You pick those people because they will actually read the book and then they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Tell you exactly what they think.
Yeah, they will. And they do. So what? You get these emails and you don't know. This is meant to say it's perfect and joyous, and I loved every word. And it doesn't. It points out mistakes.
That job, the person who was supposed to say it's perfect, it's joyous, everything's, there's not a single wrong word. That was my mother. For my entire writing career, and I don't know what I'm going to do for the next book and not having her. Like, who can I get to read it to just say that it's good to make me feel better about it? And meanwhile, I still, like, I get actual critiques from other people. But it's nice to have that one person who thinks it's perfect. Like.
People talk about saying, "Oh, you need to go out and you need to find somebody who's a really harsh critique. Will rip your things to pieces." And to a degree, sort of, but, and especially, I would say for anybody starting out, for your first novel, much more useful to have somebody who will read chapters as you go along and tell you they are all great. So you finish
and propel you to the end.
Yeah, because finishing the first novel is a huge psychological step, because then you can do it. Yeah. And from that moment on, you can write novels. So you do. Yeah. So don't listen to people who say, look out, get all the bad stuff. Yeah. Get someone who will just love your stuff. Yeah. And maybe give you very slight critiques so it feels like it's not just cheerleading.
Yeah, right. Like, tell me where the wrong commas are and tell me how good it is. Yeah. That's what I need for that first draft, right?
Yeah. It's really, really useful. But I think you get to a point, and I'm sure you're at it, where you don't actually need that anymore, because by that time you're just writing the book.
Yeah.
And what you actually do need is your friends that are going to pick you up and go, "What are you talking about here? Why is this? What is this chapter with the ducks in it? You never mentioned ducks at any other point in the whole book, and then we have the ducks." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I like ducks."
I like ducks. I was watching ducks when I was writing it. They were very pretty.
I do that with there's loads of stuff. Somebody noticed a line from a television program that was in one of the Assassin books, and I know perfectly well I will have been watching that television program while I was writing it, put it in because it amused me to do that. Yeah. But I can't remember doing it or what television program it was. I'm like, oh,
Easter egg. Now it's Easter egg.
you're in that position where somebody's told you something that's right that you've completely forgotten. You have to go, yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, I know you're right, but I don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Yeah. But we take inspiration from everywhere, and that's that's
joy,
as it should be. Joy.
Yeah. Joy. It's all about finding the joy in it, and then doing that. I get. You see people talk about writing, making them miserable, and I always want to say to them, maybe just step away and come back in a couple of years, because it shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't chase something that is making you miserable, because it's not. If you get a contract with a publisher, it's definitely not going to make you happier to be in the position you're in now, except somebody's there saying, excuse me, deadlines. Yeah, deadlines. Although they're more sort of guidelines, I've found, really. Yeah,
Not the hard. Yeah.
Yeah, if Jenny watches this, that was a joke, Jenny. Unfortunately, she knows it isn't. But
there's that one quote, and I don't know who it's attributed to actually, but the like I love deadlines. I love the sound they make as they go whooshing past.
Yeah.
Whoever.
It was all the assassin books I handed in early because they were so easy to write.
Nice.
It was just like they were first person, which is where I gravitate to. It's much easier. And when I went through the Bone Ships manuscripts after writing them, I could see where I'd become really tired, and I was forcing myself to write because it just slipped into first person.
Yeah.
And I had to unfirst person it all again. And that's why they were easy to write. But the Bone Ships in third person was a deliberate decision because I knew it wasn't as easy for me to do. Which is why just what was going on in my head at that point when I was like, let's set up a challenge here.
It was probably a Patrick O'Brien.
That's just
right?
Very close first person, third person, which is what. So it's like I've always said, I'll never write a multiple point of view book because it looks really hard. So probably the Robin Hood book would be multiple point of view. Because with the assassin books, I remember thinking, what do I want to write? I don't want to write about teenagers. I don't really want to put any form of romance in it at all. And both of those things are in Age of Assassins. Well, I don't try to I definitely don't try a coming of age book either. That's that, and it absolutely is all those three things. So every time my brain thinks, "Don't do this," the rest of my brain goes,
"Oh, yeah, we'll just go ahead then."
yeah. I think we should actually. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah.
Brains are tricky things.
They are.
But it's now past 10 and your time.
Yes. We've been talking for most of 2 hours with a little gap in the middle.
Just a small
gap that nobody noticed.
Invisible. I'm sure it was all fine. Our commenters, I don't know if it's my internet connection, but our commenters seem to have stopped commenting. We still have people watching, but they're not saying anything.
Hello. So, they might just left the tab up so we didn't feel lonely.
But at any rate, thanks so much, Ardè, for joining me tonight.
It's been lovely talking to you.
This was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And I really, really appreciate your time, and especially late in the evening. And especially so soon after you're recovering from kidney stones, which is no joke. Oh my God.
It wasn't fun. If you want agony, that is, and Crohn's disease comes with its share of pain. I thought I knew all about it, but no, there are new levels that you can go to. It's the second time I've had it. The first time I was not particularly pleased with the world at that moment. And the doctor said, "This is probably the closest a man will ever get to feel to childbirth." And I was thinking, thank you. I didn't need to know that, really. But that's for pain. Did he offer me an epidural? No.
No.
and I would have taken all of the painkillers quite happily. But no.
Yeah. No, I've had a kidney stone and I've had a child, and I don't actually know which one was worse. The child lasted a lot longer. I was in labor for a really long time, and I had back labor, so it was worse. But it tells you how bad kidney stones are, that it was close. It's not like an easy, I can't be like, oh yeah, definitely hands down childbirth. It was like, no, the kidney stones were, that was bad. But it was only 24 hours. And then but childbirth, I was in labor for days. It was,
But at least you get a child at the end.
It's true. Way better than the little calcified thing that comes out of your urinary tract for kidney stone. Nobody wants that.
No, you can't raise that over a period of 18 years.
You could keep it and name it, I suppose, but that'd be very odd.
No. Oh God, no! I was actually surprised my wife didn't. It is the sort of thing she would. She's quite obsessed with medical things. It's like, no. No. Right, I am going to go. It's really late. It's been lovely speaking to you, and just everyone be lovely to everybody else.
Thanks so much for everybody who came by. Thanks to